Think you're special? One of a kind? We agree. The way you pursue your digital ambitions is unique to you. And so is your appetite for digital risk. Whether you're hyper-connecting your ecosystem, empowering a distributed workforce, rapidly leveraging cloud, IoT, AI, or other new technologies, RSA is here to help you manage digital risk your way at every stage of your journey. So go ahead. Be you.
Hello and welcome to the new CISO. What got you here won't get you there. If you're joining us live, our speaker is in the Slido discussion answering your questions right now. For audio-video issues, click the technical support button below. I'd now like to turn it over to Stan Lowe for the presentation.
Thank you, Casey. Let me get to the slide here. As Casey noted, thank you for the introduction, Casey. As Casey noted, I'm Stan Lowe. I'm the Global Chief Information Security Officer for Zscaler. Our talk today is going to be about the new CISO. What got you here won't get you there. Real quick, a little bit about me. I've been kicking around for a while. I joined the Navy in 1983, and literally one of my first exposure to networking and computer was with Admiral Grace Hopper when she visited our boot camp company and tried to convince everybody that IT was an awesome thing to do, and actually handed out nanoseconds, which I still have mine. I don't have it with me because I'm moving house and it's packed up. But so kicked around, spent a lot of time in the Navy, got out, went to work for DARPA, a couple startups, a lot of time in the U.S. government. My last U.S. government job, I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and its Chief Information Security Officer. And subsequent to that, a bunch of different advisory boards, private companies. And I've been with Zscaler for about 2 years now as their Global Chief Information Security Officer. So one of the things that we need to talk about is how most of us as CISOs got our jobs and basically how we ended up where we are. So a lot of us got them, like I did initially, which was, because we were sort of one of the best technicians around. We were good at networking. We were good at, cybersecurity. We were good technically at our jobs. We knew the tools inside out. We knew the technology inside out, and we knew the procedures inside and out. And essentially, we got promoted over and over and over again into, and this is not necessarily true for everybody, but it's true for the vast majority of us. And one of the things is we got promoted to our jobs and our current positions because we looked at and our organizations, frankly, looked at our roles as technical. We were a technical role that basically protected the IT infrastructure from bad guys and stuff like that. So the interesting thing is, we were perfectly suited for that. And it's interesting in that, when we were doing that, we basically looked at ourselves and we thought, yeah, hey, we're pretty good. When we looked at ourselves like, essentially, whoops, I need to go back there. A little too far of a click. How we see ourselves is we're superheroes, and we are, for the most part. We are, we protect our enterprises and our environments from bad people trying to do bad things to our business. And, it's not unlike this, but, oftentimes, when we're approaching our role from a technical perspective, this is how we look at ourselves. Unfortunately, our roles, as we said in the title, are starting to change. And oftentimes our businesses look at us like, the guys that, everybody recognizes these guys from Home Alone. We do security to them. We do security for them. And oftentimes, one of the things that we need to start thinking about is even though what got us in our current roles, we were super duper technologists, and IT security was viewed, or security was viewed as a technical role, that is no longer the case. So one of the things that we have to recognize is that's driving this change is how we work, when we work, and where we work is changing. And that has never been more evident than in the last 4 months. Essentially our organizations have dispersed to the four winds. Our people working from home, as much as we can, depending on what vertical you're in. We're moving our people and our business processes outside of a traditional IT architecture, and we're looking at having to support all of those working from literally anywhere. And we oftentimes talk about, the Internet of Things, the Internet of Manufacturing, the Internet of this, the Internet of that. I was talking with Gary Hayslip, who is a CISO buddy of mine, who is the CISO at SoftBank, and we were talking about, and he said, the Internet is now everything. The Internet is everything to us as IT professionals, as cybersecurity professionals, and it's everything to our business. Because, how we look at how our businesses operate is what we need to make sure that we change the way that we think. And what that means is, effectively, we need to evolve what we think about how it means to be a CISO. Our jobs are no longer technical jobs. Our jobs are basically based upon, the architectures that we're having to move to, and where our businesses are going is we have to think about our role with regards to how our businesses need to do what they need to do to be able to do two primary things for the vast majority of us, and that's protect and drive revenue. And we need to understand where our role fits into that. So that means you can't be, the king of no, CISOs. We put the no in innovation. You can't actually look at your role as a technology role anymore. Your role is now a business enablement role, and you need to understand where you can provide value to your organizations, be able to provide value to your businesses to allow them to use the tools and technologies that they need to be able to do the things that they need to, that if they're requiring, the C-level organizations are requiring them to do to be able to protect and drive revenue. You need to figure out what your role is in that, and that means you've got to get out of your comfort zone. That means you have to get up out of your office. You have to walk into, and you can't manage by fiat anymore. You can't do to them. Security now is a speed bump, not a roadblock. We talk about DevSecOps and all this sort of stuff. There have been plenty of marketing terms that have come in and out of vogue. Security DevOps is on its way out. SOAR is on its way in. We're seeing a lot of evidence about that. But all of those are really symptoms of a problem in that a lot of us that are in our roles as CISOs have a tendency to view our roles as technologists. We are no longer, as I've said, technologists. Our job is about business enablement and allowing our organizations to use tools and technologies within the risk parameters, the risk comfort of your organization. But our job is to make sure that our folks can access applications and data from literally anywhere and still be able to, protect the organization within the risk parameters that the organization is comfortable with. So that means we have to start thinking about us, thinking about our role, thinking about our interaction with both our peers, because a lot of us are now moving out from underneath the CIO and are moving underneath, becoming peers with the CIO, or moving out completely, reporting to the CFO, directly to the Chief Operating Officer, or reporting to the Chief Legal Officer. We're starting to be recognized as that's getting us more of a voice in how the business protects itself and how the risk is assessed and managed, but it also puts us in the role of being business enablement. And that is incredibly important as you start to change your mindset. When that happens, they're going to look for you like, okay, we want to use application A or application B. How are you going to enable us to do that? And you can't say no, because what they'll do is they'll go, okay, they'll shut you down, put you in a little box, set you off to the side, and then they'll start looking for somebody that can help them. And two, they'll bypass you and do it anyway. So in order to make sure that your organizations can live within an acceptable risk, you need to actually get out, develop relationships with your business units, not at the worker level, but the people that actually run those units. Get up, say, hey, listen, my job is to make sure that you're successful within the risk profile of the organization. What are you doing? What are your plans for the next year? What are you thinking about doing with regards to business development? What new applications are you looking at? How is the business landscape changing? Starting to ask those questions in light of how our methodologies and how you need to change how you think about your role. Approach this from a business. And it's like I said, get out of the office. It's all about the business. No ifs, no ands, no buts. It is about making sure that you're talking to your organizations, that you're visiting with your organization, that you become a business peer. And ways to do that are, again, it's kind of hard to do now because, we're all working from home and some of us look at it as being trapped at home. But neither here nor there, you have to figure out a way that gets you out of your comfort zone. Start reading and doing research on and taking some courses. There are lots of good online courses about business enablement, business strategy, so you can start learning the language of business and not technology. And then back end that business acumen and that business understanding, into cybersecurity and how you're going to apply cybersecurity to enable your businesses to evolve. And that means doing things like, actually going out and understanding in depth how your business actually runs, how your business, because a lot of us are, in control of organizations that have multiple business units. We have a lot of organizations that, if like a good example would be like a pharmaceutical. Not only do you have somebody that's doing R&D, you have somebody that's doing manufacturing, you have somebody that's doing distribution, you have somebody that's doing, distribution and logistics. You have your enterprise back-end systems, your SaaSes, your Workdays, your HR folks, your finance folks. You need to understand exactly how each one of those organizations does what it does. Now, we're not saying you have to be, experts, and you don't have to be, know all the nuances. I'm talking at a macro level, not a micro level. I don't think anybody would expect you to know how to file financial reports or anything like that. And if we did, that would be kind of scary because, again, we're not exactly financial experts. Although you need to understand, how the process works, where they develop the numbers and be able to develop that final financial report at the end of the year that you report out either to the street or your board of directors. The same thing goes with manufacturing. How do they decide what products are being developed? Where do they get their supply chain for manufacturing? If they need to develop a new plant, where does all of that come from? Where does that happen? How does all of that happen? And not at the macro level, or at the micro level rather, but at the macro level. Understand the big picture. Understand their strategies. What are they planning, and not just this year, but the out years, so you can be able to position yourselves to be able to put the tools and technologies and adjust your architecture, because you're going to have to adjust your architecture and your policies and your procedures to be able to support that. So what we're really talking about at the end of the day really is a long roundabout way of basically changing the way that you look at your role from being a technology role to being a business enablement role. And that means that, and I'm not talking, you don't have to boil the ocean to do this. Creighton Abrams, General Abrams, basically coined the terms, how do you eat an elephant? You start one bite at a time. And this is the same way. I don't expect you to basically change overnight, and neither does your business. However, what you should do is turn this into small, manageable chunks. Pick a vertical, pick a business unit and say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do for you with regards to how we're changing our approach to security. The secondary part of that is at the same time, you need to bifurcate that. You need to start communicating with your board. Now, a lot of organizations don't allow their CISOs to talk directly to the board. Now, you may be involved tangentially in the risk committee, or you may be involved. Now, that is starting to evolve, and we're seeing that a little bit more, but there are still a lot of organizations that are very reticent to allow the CISOs to talk directly to the board, and that's because they think that that the CISO doesn't know how to speak the language that the business understands, and B, that they're going to be spouting technology gobbledygook, which will just turn the board off. You need to learn how to talk and speak in terms that the business understands. So that leads us to our conversation around our favorite topic, which is KPIs. Key performance indicators. Now, I don't have a slide on this, but we're going to talk about this because oftentimes the way that we report out what we're doing is impacting how we do what we do. Oftentimes you'll see CISOs will go up and they'll report, okay, we blocked this many viruses, there were this many attacks, we responded to this many incidences, we provided this amount of training, we provided that, and it's on and on and on, and it's just a litmus series of technical blurbs that have no bearing on what you're doing to provide value for the business. So you need to start thinking and evaluating how you're going to change how you talk about what you do to be able to demonstrate that business value. So instead of saying, oh, we blocked this number of attacks, we basically would change that to, okay, we had this number of incidents, and these typically the average cost for an incident is X. So because we blocked this number of events, we now have a cost avoidance of Y, and we spent this much to do that. So therefore, the cost avoidance for this is X. So you have the ability to provide something that is tangible for the business to understand, which is, on certain day, businesses understand money, they understand revenue, they understand cost avoidance. Start looking at how you do and how you come up with your KPIs, and try and think of it how the business is hearing those KPIs and changing your methodology for delivering them and for communicating them into language that these guys can understand. And I say these guys, there's gals as well. But these folks can understand because they don't know your business like you do. And oftentimes each business has its own language. Of course, we all have ours. I mean, how many, board members do you know would understand, TTPs or, the kill chain or whatever? You need to start looking at how you change your language as well as how you talk to these, to the folks about that exist in business, and use terms that they understand. And it's going to be difficult because you're going to have to learn an entire new language. I'm still learning every day. I mean, there's some stuff like, the other day I asked a question. I was like, what are MDOs, which is market-driven objectives? I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. I'd never heard that term before. Don't be afraid to ask if you don't know the answer. Because going forward on an inaccurate understanding or or incorrect definition of a term could cause you problems later on down the road. So, but having said that, that doesn't mean you don't have that interaction. Don't be mute. You're going to have to be a little bit more out there. With regards to how you approach talking to folks. But again, it's about learning the language, learning the business, understanding what they're doing and how they're doing it, and what your little cog is in the giant wheel of your organization's revenue and revenue deriving and the revenue protecting mechanism, where you fit in all that, how you can enable that in the most, and drive down risk for the organization, at the same time drive value and perceive business as a business value. So a little bit of going forward stuff next week, next month, and 6 months. Next week, make it a point to set up recurring meetings and discussion and learning sessions with your business leaders. That is incredibly important. That one, A, develops that relationship with them, and B, they then become your business mentors. That gives you the ability to, like, if you're embarrassed to ask a question about because you don't know something, you can go to them on the back end and say, hey, listen, I don't understand this concept. Explain it to me. Never be afraid to ask a question, because one, it shows that you're willing to think about them differently. Two, it shows you're not so yourself, that you're humble enough to admit the fact that you don't know everything and you're willing to learn. It goes a long way with folks. Because, oftentimes, as we view ourselves, we're the smartest guys in the room. And that, with regards to technology, that's often true, but it's not with regards to business. And that perception can create problems for you. Deliver concrete enablement activities based on your discussion. That means as you're talking to them, give them stuff that allows them to be able to, do what they need to do from a business perspective. Say, okay, listen, okay, I heard you. I understand what you're trying to do. This is what I'm going to do for you. And don't make it 6 months out, a year out, 2 years out. Do things that for them, low-hanging fruit that makes their lives better sooner. Again, we talked about begin thinking about your new KPIs. What are they going to be? Those conversations are going to drive what those KPIs are going to be. They're business value KPIs, not technology KPIs. Make sure that, as you're talking to them, you keep good notes about what the business is interested in, what that vertical is interested in, so you can deliver KPIs. So then when it comes time for budget, you'll be armed with that information, and your business leaders will back you up because you're doing things to enable their business. So again, that's moving from a cost center into an enablement center to make sure that you're providing value to the business. In 6 months, which sort of approaches sort of like the kill chain. It's a cyclical thing. Every 6 months you go back, reevaluate, say, okay, it's been 6 months since we started talking. How have we been doing? Are we doing better? Are we doing worse? Is it improving? What else do we need to do? That means basically starting to use the KPIs that you initially came up with. Are they the right KPIs? Are they the right KPIs? Do you need to adjust them? Then rinse and repeat. That means start all over at the beginning, okay? Because most organizations begin their planning cycle, 6 months into the year, they're starting to plan for the next year's. And then at the end of the year, they're starting to plan for Q3, Q4. So there's always this foot in two camps from a timing perspective, that what you're doing now is supporting short-term goals, and what you want to do is also put in place, because you need the time to plan as well, and you need time to be able to ask for budget to build things as well. So that means, essentially developing that cyclical mentality methodology, whereby not only you've got one eye looking for, the 18 to 24 months, but you've got that other eye. What are the 6 month incremental deliverables that I'm putting in place to be able to make my business function more smoothly, especially in the environment in which we are now, because this is not going away. And the things that you can do to be able to enable that are going to be incredibly important to you. There's lots of stuff on Gartner. There's lots of stuff on other organizations' websites. RSA has a great deal of information, a huge amount of a library of information that gives you, some tools to be able to help you start to plan for the environment that we're in today. So, going forward, you need to change how you perceive yourself and your role within your organization. That means that will have a direct impact. If you don't think any different about yourself, your organization's not going to think any different about you, because thinking of changing your mindset, there was the old adage that came around, change something about yourself, like, move your watch from one wrist to the next. It actually drives that change in mindset to where you are making sure that you're starting to make yourself just a little uncomfortable, because that's important. Making yourself, change is not an easy thing. So you have to, make yourself a little bit uncomfortable, that little niggly thing that makes you think about it all the time. A daily reminder, go talk to this person. Again, how you think about what your role is has a direct impact on how your organization views you. You're going to have to learn the ropes and new ways. You're going to have to start from ground zero, because I can guarantee you a lot of us, because we got our jobs, because we were good technologists, have very little, or at least a cursory understanding of how our businesses do what they do in order to protect and drive revenue. So you're going to have to learn a new language. You're going to have to learn new processes, not at the macro level, but at the micro level, but at the macro level. Get out, talk to these guys. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be frankly a pain in the ass sometimes. And you think, why would you? Because you're always going to think that, you could be doing this much better. That'll come later when you become that value add. When you become that trusted voice or that trusted advisor, they're going to start listening to you on things not in just relation to technology and cybersecurity and reducing risk, but since you're a business enablement partner, they're going to start listening to you in other ways as well. And that's only good for you because, as you mature into your role and into the new way of the role is going to be, that's going to make you more valuable and more marketable for your next role. The other part of this is from always ask yourself what you're going to do is, what am I going to do? What if I do A, B, C, or D? Is that going to help, hurt, or have no impact on your business and its goals? That is literally the most important question that you can ask yourself in this entire process. Is what I'm planning on doing from a cybersecurity perspective, is it going to help, hurt, or be neutral to my organization? So that's incredibly important series of questions to ask. So whenever your guys come up, and we all came up primarily the same way, as having all these really cool tools. I've never met a security guy that didn't like a tool. That's why we have the complex environments that we have. But ask yourself, is doing something like this, implementing this tool, changing this control, what is that going to do my business? Is it going to help them? Is it going to hurt them, or is it going to hold neutral? So the thing that you need to remember most is cybersecurity is no longer a technology problem. It's not. It's a business problem. And that problem can be used to add value, to help your organizations protect and drive revenue. The whole goal of the way you need to think about this is not being a technology professional, but you're a business professional. Cybersecurity is a business problem. You need to think about that role, your role in that light. So a long-winded explanation that basically says, hey, listen, take off your blinders, take off your hat, start looking at your organizations and becoming a business enabler, becoming that business partner. You just happen to have a different line of business that contributes to the bottom line. So thank you all. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. This is a little bit pre-recorded, but I'll be online. So make sure you reach out and have questions, type them in there. We'll get them answered. Again, you can reach out to me directly if you wish. I live on the East Coast in the United States, so the time zone may be a little different, but my email is horrifyingly enough, slowe@zscaler.com, and you can get me that way. So thank you all. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of this event. I know it's unusual, but I think it's pretty cool that we're still able to have this in the environment that we're in. And I think hopefully everybody enjoyed today's talk.